Welcome to episode 94 of the Twig Snapper podcast. Today I'm joined by Mary Kate O'Brien of the UMD women's hockey team. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm doing good. Thanks for joining me. Um, always happy to have Division One hockey players on, especially from UMD. It's pretty big, hockey school as Division One schools go. A lot of success, a lot of culture, but we can talk about that a little bit later when we get to UMD. We might as well start by kind of going through your hockey journey. When did you start playing hockey? Did you start as soon as you could walk? Did you start a little bit later when you were a little older?
I definitely started right away. Hockey's pretty big in my family. Like my dad, all my uncles played, all my cousins, my brother. So I was basically on skates as soon as I could. I think I was about 2 years old. I was wheeling around out there, falling all over the place. I tried to ditch the walkers, but that was a little premature. So I was definitely wiping the ice up a little bit, but started right
Well,
away.
that's all part of the early experience, the falling down.
Yeah, gross character. Got to get used to it.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, when you were, is your brother older?
Yeah, he's 2 years older than I am.
So did you look up to him at all because he was playing hockey before you, or he was a little more advanced?
Yeah, definitely. So my dad coached us growing up, and so I would practice in my practices, and then I'd be practicing with his team. So definitely from a young age, I kind of looked up to him, had that competitive fire to be as good as him, and keep up with the boys. So that's kind of how I started. So
Yeah. And then once you got older, you wanted to be better than him because you were, starting to get older, I'm sure. Little sibling
yeah,
rivalry,
absolutely.
maybe a
Oh
little bit of
yeah,
a
yeah.
um so you went to multiple USA hockey national development teams. Did you get invites for those? Is that how that kind of started?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm from Massachusetts, so you'd go to like your Massachusetts camp first, and then from there they would select a couple kids to go to national camp. So I attended national camp all 3 years. My last year I was selected to go to the top 70 camp after, but unfortunately I sustained an injury, so I couldn't attend. Um, but those national camps, I was in the pool for like all three of them. But yeah, it was a cool experience though. You get to meet new people, get good exposure, and it's really good hockey. So
Is that just like a week long thing?
yeah, so it's like a week-long thing. During my time, it was at St. Cloud State University. So we'd stay in the dorms there, and then we would do different, like we'd had off ice stuff, um, and then like on ice, and then games too. So we'd have like days where it'd be like stations and drills, and then we'd have days where it was like an actual game. But we'd also have workouts and stuff too. So it was a cool experience for sure.
Do you find that you're playing against a lot of the people that you met at that camp now? Playing at UMD, do you encounter a lot of these people, when you play against various colleges?
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of those girls play in the WCHA now, but even some of them that play in other leagues, like we have out of conference games. So we'll see some of those players. Like this past year, we played LIU and Harvard. So you definitely see a lot of those girls in the at the D1 level. So
Kind of fun to play against people adds a little bit to the game.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always fun to be friends, but also like when you're playing against them to be able to play hard and not be friends, when they're on other teams. But
Right.
yeah, it just makes it a lot more fun.
You also, had some different state championships and other some national championships. When I was reading your bio, I was wondering if you could touch on some of those early successes.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because I'm from Western Massachusetts, so I've been able to play in a couple different places. So I've actually won a state championship in Connecticut, in Massachusetts, and in New York. So I played for Mid Fairfield for like this is during the time where I was still playing boys hockey too, because I played boys hockey up until high school. But I played for Mid Fairfield and we won a state championship there. And then I also played for Junior Eagles, and we won a state championship in Massachusetts. And this was all before I went to Selects Academy, which is now BK Selects. Um, and they play out of Rochester, New York. So during my time there, we won 3 state championships at New York. And it's really cool because in those different states, like, it's still a really competitive tournament, and the emotions are still high, and you're still playing for something big. You're playing for a championship at the end of the day. So those experiences are really cool to be a part of, to be able to have a banner and to celebrate that with your teammates. It's just something special.
Did you get little rings or trophies for any of those?
We get medals, and
Okay.
the team gets a big trophy, and then there's a banner too. So
So you have a little collection of all your championship medals.
yeah.
Do you ever just wear them around, flex off on people?
No, but they were hanging up in my room for a little bit.
So every time somebody came over, then they could see your medals on display.
A
You
little
got to
trophy.
show them off. You got to show off your wins.
Yeah, right? Otherwise they don't count.
Right? Yeah. Nobody knows you have it unless you flash it around a little bit. Like if you win a Super Bowl ring, you got to wear that sucker. If I
Oh,
was Tom Brady,
absolutely.
I'd be wearing those rings all over the
All the
place.
time. Yep, showing all of them.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you go. So when did your recruiting process start? How old were you, or what stage were you in when you started, talking to schools?
Yeah, so when I was going through the process, it was before the rule change. So I started having calls and visits my freshman year. So I was 14 years old. Um, and what's funny is that, like, you're so young at that point, you're not even really sure what you want. You're not sure what you want to
Yeah.
study. Some people may, but I didn't. So I was going through that process really young. I went on a lot of different visits in schools close by, like, the Northeasterns, the Providence, like a lot of schools that are close to me. Um, and it was crazy because I didn't really start to look out of, you know, places that were in like an 80-mile radius of my house until I went to Selects Academy. And that was when I started to look at um the WCHA schools and just like, more outside my backyard. Um but starting that process really young was a little stressful, but it was also a cool experience to be able to see different things. But ultimately, I didn't commit until my sophomore year. I was 16, and I'm glad I waited because I was able to discover what I really wanted in a school. So I ultimately committed to Minnesota Duluth my sophomore year. Um and that was definitely the best decision for me, and I'm glad that I waited until that time.
Yeah, it's hard. And I've said this many times with different guests, but I mean, you mentioned it too. You're so young and you've got this huge decision to make. And, it's a life changing decision. And kids at that age, I mean, you don't know what you want to do tomorrow, let alone for the rest of your life. I mean, whatever you pick for college sets you up for the rest of your life. They're huge decisions. It's hard enough as a regular kid just trying to pick where do you want to go to college, what do you want your major to be. Now you add in the fact that you've got a sport, teams, coaches, all this stuff you got to consider. There's massive decisions for such young kids. I mean, I know a lot of people have pretty stressful time with recruiting because you've got to make this monumental decision. You don't want to screw up. And I mean, you have the opportunity to enter the transfer portal, but nobody wants to have to go through that. You want the place you pick to be your home for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and that was the thing, like, when I was young, when I was a freshman, I wanted to go to, like, an Ivy League school, and then the next year I wanted to go to, like, a smaller school, but, like, not an Ivy anymore, and then now, the next year I'm like, "Oh, I just kind of like, I wanna go to a competitive hockey school with a good business school," like, at that point, I knew I wanted to go into the business realm, and I was like, "Wow, it's crazy because every year I seem to change my mind, so you never really, like, when you're that young, you don't really understand how much goes into it, making a
Yeah.
decision like that. So
And like you said,
the rule change is, you know, trying to delay that process a little bit
yeah.
more. it's complicated, but it's better than kids were committing when they were in 7th, 8th grade, and really, like, at that point, they're not really looking at the big picture,
Right.
so
Well, and like you were saying, I mean, you change your mind so many times that if you make a decision that early, the next year you might start questioning that decision, and then it's more of a mess to have to deal with.
right, definitely.
So, you went to a very good program in UMD. Just talk about the culture, around the program, the facilities, kind of just, everything, kind of as in a broad sense.
Yeah, well, Duluth is awesome, we have a great community there, we get so much support from the people in our area, but we are so fortunate. We have such nice facilities in Amsoil Arena. Our staff is awesome. We're truly spoiled there. But um within our team, like we are blue collared, hardworking, and over the past few years, we've really taken some major strides in terms of like our rankings, our ability to compete. So we've really kind of built this swagger in our program. But we're truly a family and like we compete in practices every single day. We push each other to be the best. We're playing physical, playing 100%, and we leave the rink and we're all best of friends. Like
Yeah.
it's truly a family environment, and that healthy culture makes it so much better because I know that each and every one of those girls have my back and they know that I have their back. So that level of trust is just so important to have, and it's helped us succeed quite a bit.
You're right. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have team chemistry, you don't have trust, you're not a tight knit group, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. You got to be a cohesive unit to be able to succeed at the college level, at any level. I mean, you see a lot of teams with so much talent, but if they don't get along, if they don't play as a team, if they don't trust each other, you're not going to go far, even with the talent.
Right, and that's something that, like, every one of our players, we brag about the fact that we just get along so well, but we're also able to hold each other accountable. Like, I know that I can ask somebody to give more in practice, and they're not gonna get mad about it. They just know that I want what's best for them, and vice versa. Like, there's no ill will with that. It's just pushing everybody to be the best on and off the ice. What's also great is, like, that we are such good friends that it's like we'll be at the rink together for hours, and then it's like you'll walk past somebody, like, in the school, and you'll be so excited to see them as if you didn't just spend the whole morning with them? So just having
Right.
that relationship is so what makes going to the rink so much fun.
And you want it to be fun. I mean, obviously, you want to win and you want success and you're going to work hard and all that, but you also want to have a fun experience. There's no point in doing it if you're not having a good time.
Right, and it's like we all started playing hockey, like, at a younger age, and, like, I think sometimes what players our age kinda lose touch of is, like, the little girl that was playing for fun when we were, playing on the pond or, like, playing knee hockey or something, like, just finding the fun in it too. I think sometimes we can get lost in it because it gets so intense in college and beyond that, but just going back to your why you started playing, and like it's a game and
Hmm.
we're all having fun. So
Right. Yeah. If you get so sucked into the pressure and the stress and you lose that love for the game, then you're not having fun, and then you start to play worse, and then you don't feel as good, and it's just kind of a snowball effect down a hill. So you never want to lose that love for the game, that fire that keeps you going. And like you said, you got to go back to that why you started in the first place, and why you've made it this far, and why you've pushed yourself and all that. So your first year, you played 7 games, you had 1 assist. Was that, just due to the fact that you were a first year, you kind of had to learn the ropes, adjust to college? Did you have an injury? What was the factor, I guess, in that?
yeah, so I mean, I definitely came in there. It was an old team. I made it into the lineup as a
Mm-hmm.
first year, which was very impressive. But unfortunately, early on in the season, I had another shoulder injury. I had been dealing with that for a bit in my career. I had had surgery on my left one my junior year of high school and was having some problems with my right one after that, starting senior year. So unfortunately, I went down with another injury and had to have surgery. So I actually redshirted my freshman year, which was, I mean, it was definitely disappointing to know that like that season was, done. It was a season ending injury. But at the end of the day, it was pretty important that it happened early on so I could get that year back
Mm-hmm.
whilst still having a few games under my belt of experience. So that was kind of my freshman year. I had surgery. I ended up getting surgery during Christmas break. So, I was rehabbing and recovering all second semester, but still being able to kind of like take it all in, watch, and still kind of be a sponge and learning everything still. Because at the end of the day, I was still a freshman,
Mm-hmm.
trying to learn the ropes. I just had to kind of take on a different role in doing that.
Yeah. Though, yeah, those first 7 games that you played in, that experience is priceless. I mean, to get as a first year, any experience is good experience. You kind of get a taste of the speed and the IQ and just different things that you wouldn't pick up on if you just sat on and watched the whole season. So you got, that experience that I'm sure helped in year two, in which you played 39 games, you had 5 goals and 2 assists. So you were there throughout the whole season, and you guys had a really good season. Made it to the NCAA tournament. You beat Clarkson, and then you lost to a very good Minnesota team. So I guess take us through that, kind of end of the year into the playoffs. What was going on through the team, and kind of just how you guys were taking all of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's always exciting at the end of the year, the playoffs, emotions are high, it's just fast, fun. That Clarkson game was really fun because that's a team that, we never play or we didn't play during the regular season. So playing teams from other leagues is always a cool experience because it's just different than what you're used to. Um, Still not an easy game by any means. It's
Mm.
just different in the sense where it's just a new team. That's the way it is. So that game was really fun. And then moving on to that Minnesota team, obviously we had played them 4 times that year already and we knew how good they were. It's just one of those things where it's like could go either way. Like you're used to the way they play, they're used to the way we play. It's just a matter of, goals going in, goals not going in. It's a game of inches, obviously, but still they were a very, very good team. Um, I think that, you know, we throughout the year we gave them a run for their money, but they got the better end of us. But at the end of the day, like we played hard, that's playoff hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's just a cool experience to be able to play in games like that. And, they're a couple hours away. So it was funny to like be in playoffs in the national tournament, but only have like a 2-hour drive down into the
Yeah.
city to play at Ritter Arena. So
Yeah. And then, it kind of lights a little bit of a fire in you. I'm assuming next year, you know how far you got and you want more. You had that taste for the NCAA tournament and you're going to want to get there again. And then you're going to want to go farther. So it gives your team motivation for next year. It's nothing. It's obviously nobody wants to lose, but those kind of losses, once you get into the NCAA tournament, okay, you're there. It's a huge accomplishment. They're not really losses that you need to be disappointed about, but you kind of just use them as motivation. You can be satisfied. Okay, yeah, it was great, but we're not satisfied. We want more. Next year we want it all. We came this close. We can kind of taste it. We want to make it farther, and you got that motivation from the previous year.
right. And these are all building blocks, like before I came to UMD, like that was a team that, you know, wasn't making the national tournament or, so the girls that came before me, they really like built the program, and to even be making the tournament and making it as far, like my freshman year, we made it to the national championship. This year we made it to the regional championship. Like those are still like huge accomplishments, but like, you know, obviously we're not satisfied, but like you have to look at the growth that this program has had over the last few years, and it's like we're not finished. We're continuing to build, and you know, we're going to keep going and stay on pace, and you know, like good things are going to happen for us. So definitely just building blocks, but we know where we what we want, and we know where we're going. So
Yeah, it's hard. You'd never guess, that your team wasn't always a playoff team. Like you mentioned that kind of swagger that you guys built, and the culture that you guys have built. If somebody just started watching they looked at last season, I'm sure they wouldn't guess like, oh, this isn't normal forever. They haven't been like this. You just kind of, you guys have, like you said, built it, the building blocks. You built it into a good program. You're not finished, but you always want more. Even if you win a national championship, you want another one. You win a Stanley Cup or a Super Bowl or whatever, you always want more. So you never, no one's ever satisfied. There's always room for improvement, no matter what.
definitely. And you know, our program, we do have 5 national championships. We're built on, you know, a legacy of championships, but you know, we're going to get back to that, and it hasn't
Mm-hmm.
always been easy. So just kind of remembering like the people that came before myself, and like my class and the class before and whatnot, like remembering kind of like they got the ball rolling, so it's up to us to kind of keep it rolling in the right direction.
Right. And when you see that your school has done it before, you wanna add history to that. You want to be a part of the history. You want to get back to those winning days, like you were saying. Um, what is the toughest away barn to go to out of all the teams you play? Where's the hardest to go into because their fans are just crazy and they get in your head? It's just a hard environment to play in.
I would say probably toughest but also most fun is Minnesota at Ritter Arena or Wisconsin at LeBron, because they have those smaller rinks for the women's team, but they fill them, and they're
Mm-hmm.
loud, and their band is playing, their band's heckling, you know, like they have those cheers and they're just trying to get you going, but it just kind of fills the energy, and like something that my team, like we recognize, is that what they're filling the arena with is energy, and like we can use it to fuel us even if it's not necessarily supposed to be fueling us, but at the
Right.
same time like staying in the glass. So those rinks are definitely the most fun to play in, but if you look at it in the sense of the fact that they are chirping us, like that can be tough, but it definitely is just fuel.
Sometimes having a smaller barn is better because when you fill it, it gets a lot louder. If you have a big barn and you don't fill it, then there's not going to be that energy. You have a smaller barn and you pack it gets so loud. Sometimes that's better. Obviously everyone wants to play in front of a huge crowd and in a huge arena, but sometimes a smaller crowd with a lot of energy could be better for you, or worse for the opposing team. like you were saying, you got to use that energy. You got to kind of absorb it and use it in a good way, because if you let it get to you, then they're winning, and then that's what they want, obviously.
Right. Yeah. And like something that we always say is just like stay in the glass, like stay within ourselves and our team, focus on what we need to do, and just use the noise as, you know, good energy for yourself. So those are definitely fun barns to play in. The WCHA, like we bring in a lot of fans. So we have some of the best fans in college hockey. So getting that support is huge. So just knowing that people are watching, there's season ticket holders. It's awesome to really see that. So,
Yeah, for sure. So in a non-hockey sense, when you're not playing hockey, what do you like to do for fun?
um, I've taken up a couple different hobbies within the past few months. When I was at school, I kind of got into some pickleball, and I'd play against my teammates, so I kinda brought that home too. I kinda got my family and friends into it, which is fun because it helps me stay active, but it's also just like a change of pace too, like to
Yeah.
get away from the rink to play a different sport, just like stuff like that. Um, I've also been golfing a little bit, like, that's a little more frustrating because 'cause I'm not very good, but I'm trying to get better.
Yeah.
So, go to the
Yeah.
range, go golf a little bit, but that's definitely a work in progress.
Hey, you got plenty of time to just keep picking away at it and getting better. And it's a good leisure sport. If you just want to relax. I mean, so many people they golf every day because they just love it. And it's not. It's definitely not. If you're just golfing for fun, it's definitely not as hectic as hockey. Hockey's a pretty hectic, go go go, crazy, lot of energy, a lot of stress. So if you want to just go out and play a couple of rounds of golf for fun, or just go hit on the driving range or something and just kind of let loose. That's good sometimes to be able to just kind of or a sport, you said you're not good at it really, but you don't have to be good at it. You're just doing it for fun. Like you just go out there and do whatever and who cares what happens.
Exactly, and that's what, that's, like, the fun of it is that I can play pickleball against my mom, and it's like it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah, right.
there's nothing to it, just having fun, spending time with people you care about. And like obviously hockey's so much fun. I love it. But
Right.
also a sense of like you care so much and you're so passionate about it where golf is fun, pickleball's fun, but I'm not like so passionate about it that if I mess up, I'm like beating myself up.
Right. Yeah, you need those sports that you can just do for fun without any pressure to be perfect. Um what is your favorite food?
Um, I'd say I have a couple. When I was growing up, it was definitely chicken parm, but I actually don't eat meat. I'm pescatarian now, so I would say like
Okay.
eggplant. I also like Mediterranean food like falafel and that sort of thing. Um, but like for dessert, probably just like ice cream. Love a good ice
What's your
cream.
favorite flavor? Or how about this first? Hard ice cream, like scooped or soft serve?
Oh, that's tough because it really depends on what I'm in the mood for. I would say probably hard ice cream is what I would go more t I would lean more towards, but a good, like, soft serve with, like, rainbow sprinkles or something, like, that always hits in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't go wrong with ice cream. Doesn't matter how old you get, it never gets old to get ice cream.
Ever.
Do you have a favorite pro sports team? Do you watch any sports or follow any
Oh,
sports?
absolutely. Absolutely. I am a mass hole till I die. I'm a Boston Bruins fan, Boston Celtics, Red Sox,
Oh,
Patriots. Yeah, so I'm, probably not a fan favorite, but I am a loyal Bostonian sports fan.
I can agree with you on the Celtics. I'm all over the place. I don't like pick just like, oh, I live in Michigan. I like all the Michigan. No, I'm all over. I like the Anaheim Ducks. I like the Arizona Diamondbacks. I like the Tennessee Titans, and I like the Boston Celtics. So I'm all over the board with the teams I root for. Can't say I agree with I can't get on board with the Sox or the Bruins, especially not the Patriots. I was so happy when Tom Brady left. I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. The next best thing was Aaron Rodgers leaving the Packers. Like brought me a lot of happiness to see all the loyal fans turn on their, all the Boston fans turning on Tom Brady. He was the goat,
Yeah.
and then 5 minutes later, everyone hated him, is burning his jerseys, and I
Yeah, you know
being
what?
an outsider, I liked it.
Right. No, I can definitely see, and it's funny now that I'm in Minnesota because you see like Wild fans, you see Vikings fans. So
Yeah,
you can kind of see like, they obviously have that animosity towards Boston teams, but You know, I could never get behind the Brady slander. He did so much for our
Yeah,
organization.
yeah,
So
that doesn't make sense. I don't get people who do that. Like, he was there for so long. He brought in all these Super Bowls, whether like it or not. And I don't like saying it, but he is the GOAT. So I don't know why slander him. Be happy for what he did for you and let him move on. But it was kind of fun to watch all these people who were tooting his horn just crumble. They couldn't handle it. The Bruins, that had to have been hard.
oh
This that had to have been hard. A historic season, and then
yeah.
Florida Panthers come marching in and just kick you right off the road.
Yeah, that
It
was definitely
is,
heartbreaking.
but
That series really like subtracted 10 years of my life, probably.
a lot of just ripping your hair. What's
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on right now? How did we lose that game?
yeah. You know what? It was definitely heartbreaking, but the regular season was so fun to watch that like I try not to be one of those fans that like, just gets angry because it's hockey at the end of the day, like any team
Any
can win.
right,
And
playoff
it was
hockey is so
cool.
crazy.
Yep, and it was cool to see, like, Matthew Tkachuk be so successful, because everyone you tried to chirp him and stuff, saying he wasn't gonna be as good once he left the Flames and that he only was getting his points from Goudreau, and it's just like it was cool to see him kind of really prove himself this year as a player and as an American player and stuff,
Yeah.
so,
Oh
it
yeah.
was hard for me to root against him and the Panthers really after they beat the Bruins because I was like, what they're doing is cool. Like they barely got into the playoffs and now they're, making this huge run. So obviously I was really upset about the Bruins, but it was cool to see. You always love to see a good run like that.
Yeah. No, it was very impressive for an 8 seed. It would have been cool if they could have beat Vegas, I think, but Vegas was the better team. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Boston next year. I mean, they're losing some big pieces, but like a lot of people have still said that core is still there. I mean, you still got Pasta and McAvoy and the goaltending situation, whatever they do there. Some people question if they'll keep both of them. Regardless, they're both good goalies. I mean, like Swayman would be a starter most places, and you bring back Luch, and you got James Van Riemsdyk, and just like some other guys to kind of try to fill in the holes. I don't think I wouldn't say they're gonna go win a Stanley Cup, but I definitely think they're a playoff team, maybe a wild card. But people are talking, oh, the Bruins are gonna suck next year. I wouldn't go that far. I think they're definitely gonna be in the playoffs somehow. Who knows? Maybe they'll pull Florida, be an 8 seed, and they'll run the table.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was definitely hard to see Bertuzzi go. I would have loved to see him stay. And it was hard to see Hall go as well because I thought that we were getting rid of him to keep Bertuzzi. Um, but bringing in some new people, it'll be nice. It'll be refreshing, kind of. It'll be interesting to see if Bergeron comes back. That's always kind of a question mark. Um,
I'm gonna
but
guess no.
I,
That's my guess at
yeah,
this
I
point in
would
his
say that
career.
yeah, I would say that too. And you know what? It's hard for me to kind of admit that he's been my favorite player growing up since I literally can remember. But um yeah, it's funny because I feel like nobody really ever expects the Bruins to be as good as they are. Like this year, people were betting that they weren't even gonna make the playoffs, and then they go and do
Right.
what they did. And
Yeah,
it's just kind of
historic
funny.
season. Yeah,
Yeah. So
who know? People, nobody knows what they're talking about. It just let's make noise in the off season. Let's get our views up, and then we'll all be wrong.
right, like the predictions. It's funny to see the predictions because
Oh
you
yeah.
look I had like a bracket, like in the NHL, like bracket challenge thing, and I literally had the Bruins versus Colorado in the Stanley Cup final, and they both were like first round exits. So it's just like
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like you
Yeah.
could you could hit it right on, you could hit the nail right on the head, or you could miss blindly.
Yeah.
So
Oh
hockey's
yeah.
fun.
I was so for sure that I thought like Ottawa and Columbus were gonna make the playoffs. I was like, they got all these great new free agents. You got DeBrincat and Columbus and Giroux, and then you got Johnny Hockey and Line down in Columbus. Oh, they're gonna make the playoffs. And neither one of them did. So, it's hockey's a crazy game. You never know what's going to happen. Hey, maybe the Ducks will make the playoffs next year. I doubt it, but hey, you never know.
Never know. That's why it's fun though.
Yeah. So, what do you do in Duluth for fun? Duluth's kind of a fun town. I love Duluth. I love going to Duluth. I'm only a few hours from Duluth. I'm actually going to Duluth on Saturday. Well, it won't be Saturday by the time this is posted. It'll have been whenever, but I like Duluth. It's a great town.
Yeah, Duluth's awesome. You know what? I just love being outside in Duluth. Like the winters can get pretty cold, obviously, but like when the weather's nice, it's just so much fun to be outside, like going on hikes, going on like rollerblade, like,
Yeah.
through scenic routes and or going to like down by the lake and or into canal, stuff like that. Like I can I don't know, like we've gone like rollerblading or go on walks right by the lake and stuff. So just seeing like all the pretty sights outside, it's just so beautiful and like so fun to be outdoors there because the weather is really nice when it's when you can
Yeah.
tolerate being outside, like it's actually beautiful. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot of great restaurants too, a lot of good food, and it's kind of it's a cool town. It's a city, but it's not a city, and it's not that big, but it's also like it feels like it's a little bit bigger sometimes when you're there. So I think
right.
it's got to be a fun place to go to college, kind of a fun college town. But yeah, Duluth's an awesome place, like you said, when it's not freezing cold.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of everything, which is awesome. It's very versatile.
Yeah. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan all have that. Like the winters are horrible sometimes, but also beautiful. And then it can snow in the fall, it can snow in May, you know, it could be 90 for a big stretch in the summer, and then it'll drop down and get cold. And the falls are awesome. You really get everything.
Yeah, it's funny. In the spring, we had beach days, and then we had like a little dusting of snow, and it's nice. It keeps you on your toes, but
It
it's
was
so
it
much.
was the weirdest May ever. It was so
Yeah,
weird. It was just bizarre. The Like you said, the beach days where it was like 90, and like I'd be going through Tech's campus and there's all the people on their frat house roofs, shirts off, drinking beers, and then days later you've got to put a jacket on because it's slush and snow and just horrible, and you don't want to go outside. Like, what
right,
what's going on? And then you question, why do I live here? But then when it's warm and beautiful, you don't question it at all.
right. And you know what? It's made me appreciate weather that's above 40 degrees. Like if it's 40 degrees and sunny, I'll have like the front panels off on my Jeep or like the windows down, like,
Yeah.
and then like when I get home and it's like 60 degrees and everyone's shivering, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah, there was one spring break I went to visit my grandparents down in Arizona, and it was cooler down there. It was only in the upper 60s, but I was coming from Michigan where it was maximum of 30 and at whatever end of February, early March there. I was rocking a t-shirt and shorts, and all these other people are wearing their like winter jackets and pants. I thought, oh, this is great. You should go
yeah,
check out Michigan right now.
yeah, it'd be like 45 degrees and like a couple of my teammates and I would be on the patio of my apartment complex doing homework, catching some
Yeah,
rays.
it's
People are looking like,
crazy.
what are you doing?
Yeah, it's crazy how after months and months of winter, it hits like 35 and you feel like you can just go outside in short sleeves and it feels so warm. You just get so acclimated to that cold that 35, 40 is just the best. You can't get
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, so that part's been great.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on this episode of the podcast. Good luck with next season. It's crazy to think about it, but we're already midway through July. So it's going to be here before you know it. It's hockey season starts in the fall. So it's really crazy that it's going to be here. It's right around the corner. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.